Thank you. I call this meeting of the Davenport Community School District Board of Directors to order. Director Dickman will be joining us after the presentations by phone. Director Sherwood is on vacation. Director DeFau, would you please read our priorities?
Certainly. The Davenport School Board establishes the following priorities to ensure the academic success of all students. Provide leadership and direction to improve the overall learning environment in our classrooms, schools, and district, including the health, safety, security, and happiness of students and staff, and direct and support actions, programs, and activities which reduce the impacts of poverty on our students, their families, and our community.
Thank you. And Director Kluhl, would you read our mission and vision statements, please?
Oh, certainly. The mission statement of the Davenport Community School District is to enhance each student's ability by providing a quality education enriched by our diverse community. And our vision statement is education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Thank you very much. Superintendent Tate, we have a couple of showcases tonight.
We do. North High School, Principal Jay Chelf, come forward, and you've got the first presentation.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for inviting North High School back, as it was too cold the night that we were originally scheduled, and it's a much balmier -1 tonight. I'm beginning to wonder if it's ever going to warm up. But we appreciate the board's interest in the things going on at school, and we have a couple of people that are going to have short presentations on 4 or 5 of the new programs that we've implemented at North High School in the last year and a half. So to get it started, a couple of our teachers, our science department chair, Mrs. McCreary, and our math department chair, Mrs. Buckley, will talk to you about some of our Tier 3 interventions that we're doing.
Evening. I'm the Shannon part of that duo, Shannon Buckley from the math department. For the schools that are on block, 30 minutes of each teacher's prep is typically spent on a duty of the principal's discretion. In the past, these have been just general supervision duties. This year at North, we've implemented Tier 3 intervention duties. Essentially, 30 minutes every day, a teacher will go into a different teacher's classroom and provide some sort of assistance. And this assistance shows up in a variety of different forms. It could be one-on-one help that a teacher provides. For example, in a math classroom, I may go into another math classroom while the students are working on independent practice and assist while the students are working along with that classroom teacher. It could be small group pullout, where one teacher goes into another teacher's classroom and pulls out a small group of students to work on a specific skill or task that that classroom teacher dictates ahead of time. Or it could be a specific remediation for an individual student that we determine ahead of time. Someone who was absent, for example, or just has a specific skill that they are lacking in that we would need to catch them up with.
I'm Laura McCreary, and I want to talk to you about the several positive outcomes that have happened because of this Tier 3 intervention duty schedule. At this point, teachers are developing more one-on-one relationships with students that they probably would not have prior to this. For example, I pulled out a student from another science classroom last year and worked with her on biology, and it turned out I ended up being one of her mentors for the year, and she felt comfortable coming to me if she had problems that we otherwise would not have known each other. We've also have created small group support for those students that need the extra help. So instead of being in a classroom of 26 to 30 kids, they are now in a small group with 6 individuals, usually max, and have more one-on-one teacher interaction. And overall, it's a school-wide unified approach to targeting at-risk students, and just we're making a more tremendous difference in students' lives with this capability that we have during our duty schedule. So at this point, we're going to, now that you've heard about our curricular improvements, you're now going to hear about our ambassador program from Hannah Harrington and Jared DeFau.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jared DeFau. I am a senior at North High School. I am an ambassador captain. What we do is it's an applied program. We are handpicked by our principal to be in this program. Basically, we go out and we go to the middle schools and talk to them and mentor them over what high school is going to be like, what activities are happening at school. We also have some fun, play some games, make them more comfortable about high school, and keep working towards getting them to go into their neighborhood school. So that's basically what ambassadors do.
Well, I'm Hannah Harrington. I'm a senior. And along with going over to Wood, at the end of the year, so upcoming in April, there's 8th graders that are coming up for Shadow Day. So us as the ambassadors are the people that guide the students around the school. We take them to lunch. It's just a really fun day, and they get to meet all of us. And then the other thing about going to it is that since in my AP class at Wood, we had maybe 5 or 6 kids that were not planning on coming to North, and because of us going over there, well, and probably some other stuff too, but we're helping them come into our school and showing them, hey, North is fun, we're good at a lot of things, and our academics are great, so come to North, be a Wildcat.
Okay, a couple of our other programs that we've implemented, as you know, a lot about our dual graduation program, as we've talked a lot about that in the last 6 to 8 months, but I thought I'd give you a quick little update on how that's going. Our first cohort, our freshman class, we currently have 44 students, and we're running 2 sections of the dual graduation program, and they did begin their classes in January. They didn't take any of the dual credit classes in the first semester as they were getting acclimated to high school, and they're taking 2 classes this spring, and they did begin the one in January. And again, we have 44 students in there, and they're doing fantastic. They're a great group of students. We have already completed the process for next year. We had applications from 8th graders. We have accepted 90 students for next year's program. We will be running 3 sections instead of 2. With all the things set up, we feel comfortable that moving it up to 3 sections would be the right thing to do, and we can very easily make that happen. So we do have 90 students that we're working with. We have a meeting coming up in a couple of weeks where the parents will come in, meet with their Scott Community College counselors, and get their applications into Scott, meet with our counselors, make sure their schedule for next year as freshmen is the way that they want it, and we've got all of that going quite well. Kind of a recap, at their freshman year they will take 2 dual enrollment classes, which will earn them 6 credits. Their sophomore year, that first cohort will be taking 5 classes, which would be 15 more credits. And then their junior and senior year, they'll be taking 7 classes each for another 21 credits each time, with the culmination of, at the end, earning a associate's degree from Scott while earning their high school diploma. So that program's really going really well right now. And lastly, another program that we began this January, our academic recovery program. We started that in January. We've been working on it for about a year, and we have our first 2 classrooms going that started this January. This is a program for students who are on the other end and are not doing well in high school. The current behaviors, habits, the way they approach school is not going to get them to a diploma, and to let them continue down that path is just the wrong thing to do. We need to take a stop. We need to make sure we help work through whatever habits they have or problems that they have as at-risk students, get worked on, and then get them back into the regular school setting. We currently have 26 students in that program. It's 2 classrooms. One has freshmen and sophomores. One has juniors and seniors. We have 8 teachers. We have 1 paraeducator in each room all day with the students, and we have 8 teachers in the program. What they will do is there's 2 teachers each block. First block, for instance, we have a social studies teacher and a math teacher. One will go to one room, the other will go to the other room, and they'll be in there for about 45 minutes, and then the teachers will switch. So for the teacher, it's a full block assignment. For the students, it's breaking things down a little bit shorter for them, because for some of them, it's just the duration of 90 minutes in a classroom with 30 students is they're having difficulties with. So everybody in that program is working on students with their attendance, with their study habits, with lots of different things which have caused them to be put into this program. The only criteria we use for the program is strictly Fs. It's not a behavior program. It's not a anything other than it's a student who has failed 3 or 4 of their classes many terms in a row. It's not even a one time I all of a sudden had a bad term. It's students who have failed numerous times. Our assistant principals will then meet with the student and the families and even one more time challenge them to turn it themselves and give them another term to see if they can get the things turned so they're headed in the right direction, earning credits. And if they can't, then this is a program that we're using. Of the 26 students, about 15 of them are already. We have students that they've attended 14 out of a 15-day school period, and most of them hadn't attended school 3 times in any given week in the last year. There's lots of things going on to why it's helping them, but a lot of the students now we're looking at, a lot of them are enjoying it so much and feel so good about it. It's going to be a little more difficult to move them out into the regular class setting, but that is our goal. This is a short-term intervention to help students correct their habits of why they're failing so many classes and then get them right back into the school setting. We're also running this program with no additional funding. It's with our own FTE. We've created this system so that we didn't need to ask for anything more to provide it. It's just within our own FTE that we already had, and we have core teachers and elective teachers in the classroom helping with that program. Lastly, would like to thank the board for helping make what we feel is North High is one of the best facilities, one of the schools with the greatest facilities in the state of Iowa. It's just phenomenal. All the things that have happened over there over the years, but especially we'd like to thank everybody for this last summer, putting in the new band room, new tennis courts, and remodeling our library and our family consumer science wing. We are now completely, and I truly believe, one of the best facilities, one of the high schools with the best facilities in the state of Iowa. That's the dedication you guys have put towards the facilities in Davenport as a whole, but we truly appreciate that. And I want to thank Scott Martin and his team for, I couldn't believe we were taking all this on in one summer, and it almost all got done in the summer, but the band room took a little longer. It was well worth the wait, but Scott and his team just did a phenomenal job overseeing that, and we greatly appreciate the facilities at North. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments by the board? Director Crumwitty.
Well, first of all, Jay and teachers and students, thank you for sharing the exciting projects that are going on at North High School. And I just have a couple of questions. Teachers, you talked about the RTI and Tier 3 interventions. Is it making a difference academically?
Last year, we actually incorporated it as part of our data team in science, and we were able to move several kids from what would have been the red category or far to go to either proficient or at least close to proficient. It was a small data set. We've just started rolling this out full school this year, so we don't have significant data right now. But overall, it seems to be making a positive impact.
Great. I'd be curious to see what you have at the end of the year. It's really exciting to hear this and how you're using your time to do this. And students, I have a question for you. Your ambassador program, I'm curious, do you have any training? And who trains you to go out and be ambassadors at Wood?
We don't, I mean, we have each week we go every the first Friday of every month, and Jared and I and a couple other kids are ambassador captains, so we plan out basically what we're doing. And there's not really any, so to say, training, but like we've played trivia with them. They really like Four Corners. Every time we finish something early, let's play Four Corners. So it's just kind of like a getting ready, not getting ready to go into high school. Just kind of showing them what we do in high school, and we tell them like all of our upcoming activities like swim meets, show choir, band, everything, so that we can just get them coming to our things to get them to go to their neighborhood school. So,
Great way to build relationships. Jay, one last question. I filled in for our president recently at a city council meeting when the city council was promoting their new endeavor with 2 years of college for people building homes or moving into renovated homes in the city. And I'm wondering if you've had any conversation with city officials about their project, because they were certainly all members on the city council that evening, including the mayor, were just, they couldn't say enough about what North is doing with about their dual enrollment program and what's going on in Davenport. So I'm just curious as to if you've had any conversation.
I've had some conversations with them about what we're doing. They have asked, and I know a couple of them, so just had some conversations. So I think they have a real good understanding of what it is we're doing. I have not had a conversation with them on that piece, on what they're doing on their end. But yes, I have talked to quite a few of the
Well, hopefully we can
mayor.
get more information from them also so we can work together.
Absolutely.
Thank you, North.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Director Snyder.
I have a question for either Jared or Hannah. How many kids are in the Student Ambassador Program, and how can other kids that are coming up get information or get involved in that program?
There are 45 students in our ambassadors program, and to be an ambassador, you have to apply as a freshman, and he's going to take you and do an interview you, see you, what kind of activities you are in, how well you do in school, and then he'll choose you over that course of information.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Director Kluhl.
Well, you know, the word that comes to mind in listening to this presentation was something that's near and dear to me, and that's inclusivity. Everything from the teachers who've done the Tier 3 work with students who might have otherwise fallen through the cracks, who develop a relationship and say, hey, there's somebody I know, I can trust that person, that one-on-one relationship. The ambassadors, you know, as you reach down to the middle school kids and bring them up, and Director Crumwoody asked, well, what experience do you have? And I said, you were middle schoolers, right? You know, what else do you need to know? You've been there. That's about the best experience you could possibly have in knowing what those kids need, because you've been there. And then with the dual degree program, reaching out to those kids who, for so long, we have paid too little attention to, those kids who want to do more. And I am just impressed with the breadth of the program that North has established, and you deserve every bit of the facility that this board has provided for you out there. And I thank you.
Any others? Director Snyder.
Just one more. For those families out there that take their kids and leave the district because they feel they can get a better education outside the district, I guess I would like to point out that this is just one example of what they're missing out by staying within our district. Outstanding young people that want to get involved. We have an Iowa Science Teacher of the Year standing in front of you. All these young people behind us getting ready to present, as well as a dual enrollment program that if you are concerned about your child being challenged day in and day out, it's there. Our district has it. North High School is just one example. I challenge you to take a look at your public school before you make the decision to leave.
Anybody else?
Can I add something?
Sure, you might.
This year we have one of the biggest freshman classes that we've had in a long time, if ever. And whether that's because of us going to ambassadors, this program started last year, or the dual enrollment, it's just really awesome to see that even though we still have open enrollment, all of these kids are still coming to see what we're all about at North High School. So it's exciting.
That is exciting. Thank you, Hannah, and thanks to all of you for your showcase of North. Thank you. Superintendent Tate, we have another showcase for Garfield.
We do, and I'll call upon Principal Mike Orfatelli, and it looks like a lot of young people with him. Welcome.
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to showcase our Garfield students and allowing them to showcase their confidence in learning and leading. Thanks to all of our parents that adjusted their schedules and meal times and those different types of things to allow their students also to come here, and our two faculty representatives that are assisting as well. Thank you. Quickly introducing our two faculty representatives, Mrs. Dowd with our music program. I had the opportunity to work with these students and the teachers for the past year and a half. And my first music program, I'll be honest, I went and I thought there would be a song and then people would clap and there'd be a song. But in my amazement, it was a choir event. And truly, Miss Dowd and the music program at Garfield are bridging that gap where we're starting students off early with a wide variety of music and music knowledge, and you'll see a demonstration of that very shortly. Also, Miss Reed, who's seated right behind me, she's our guidance counselor. She has her hand in almost everything, if not everything, at Garfield. And her programming provides a wide variety of both interventions and enhancements to learning opportunities. She has worked tirelessly, and Garfield is recognized as a RAMP school, which is a school that's recognized by the, and I want to get this right, by the American School Counselor Association as a model school program. I know we're the only school with that recognition in the city of Davenport, and currently I believe the only school in the state of Iowa with that recognition. So that's due to the hard work of Miss Reed. Kind of summarizing our mission statement, it briefly describes parents, community, faculty, staff, all working together to create confident learners and leaders. I hope that we could demonstrate in the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes how our students are confident learners and leaders. I would like to present to you Ivy Wilmington.
Hello, I'm Ivy Wilmington, the Garfield School President. I would like to present the drum circle.
They would have their recordings because they can all play this. All right.
You could stay there. You could just stay right there for till we're done.
Hi, my name is Travis, and this is the drum circle. These are the drum circle members: Jake Austin, Blake Johnson, Cameron Mack, Diamond Porter, Tanish Miller, Jalen Williams, Ella Haywood, Autumn Thurman, and McKenna Bayless. Oh, Victoria Lil. What the drum circle is a group of kids that play drums. Mrs. Dowd is the teacher that teaches us songs and how to play the drums. This here is Mrs. Reed. Mrs. Reed, she's the one that made the drum circle up and the one who put us as a group. What drum circle does to me and some other kids is keep us out of trouble and teaches us how to work as a team.
Now I'd like to introduce Jake Emerson.
Hello, my name is Jake Emerson. I am in Boy Scouts and I am a member in Safety Patrol, also former mayor of Biztown. I have been included in many more school activities too. I have been involved in school activities such as chorus, intramurals, Biztown tag, science club, and Cub Scouts. All of these activities are great and they've helped me become a confident learner and leader. In fact, all of these activities have made everybody in the school a better and more confident person. Everybody in the school gets along with a few casual bumps. I am in an empathy poster in the office. That is what we have been practicing in school. Every activity is something that we learn from. We always learn at least one thing from each activity in school. At the moment, we have a teacher with cancer. She is recovering, but Garfield is working hard to support her in every way we can. Again, I am Jake Emerson, and it was a pleasure to speak at the school board with everybody.
Now welcome Elijah Boyle and Allie Greenwood.
Hi, I'm Allie Greenwood. I am very excited to be speaking in front of the school board. Elijah and I recently won a drawing contest back in November. What I'll be talking about today is Garfield Elementary has gotten new entryways in the front of the building. They decided to put some stained glass painting in the bare windows above. So they had a contest to see whose artwork they'd put up there. So Elijah and I had won that contest. I also had to stay after school to finish the project. Mrs. Smith, the art teacher, has pulled me out of class to finish it also. I've also gone down during recess. That's my part to tell. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Davenport School Board members. My name is Elijah Boyle, student of Garfield Elementary since kindergarten. My principal is Mr. Orfatelli. I'm here to represent the art department. When our teacher told the class about the art contest, I was excited. When thinking about what I wanted to draw, it came to me. I didn't want to share my idea with anyone, but my art teacher, Miss Smith, and my parents. The waiting to hear who won was the hardest part. It gives me great honor to be a part of the history of my great school. Now when the new students enter Garfield, they will see part of me and the school's talent. I hope it inspires those who come after me. I will never forget my excitement with the media and this meeting. I just wanted to say, this is pretty cool.
Now here comes Abby McClelland.
Hi, I'm Abby McClelland, and I'm a 5th grader at Garfield. I've participated in many activities in school which have helped me become a confident learner and leader. Some of the activities are band, chorus, student council, and tag. I also tutor 1st grade students 2 times a week. When I tutor, I feel like a leader. I'm sharing what I know with other students by teaching the material to other students. I feel like it has helped me become more confident with the material as well. I also feel like the 1st graders look up to me as a role model. Chorus has helped me improve my confidence because I am learning many new songs and sometimes even getting a chance to direct. I gain confidence in myself by performing in front of large audiences of students, family, and friends. Student Council has helped me become a better leader by giving me a chance to communicate with my classmates and share ideas to make Garfield School a better place. For example, last week I went to Student Council and helped deliver letters to many teachers so that every student who wanted to could make Valentine's Day cards for people in nursing homes. I have learned a lot from the many opportunities Garfield has given me and feel I am ready for 6th grade.
How Garfield has helped me become a confident learner and leader because all the teachers are amazing. We have a fundraiser to gather up money for a sick teacher, Miss Peterson, on Thursday. Everyone wear purple. Also, I'm in student council, which is very important. I'm in the school free throw contest. I'm going to Des Moines for the state contest on February 22nd. Thank you for your time.
And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Now, don't be wandering off. quite yet. I'm sure that there might be comments or questions from the board. Are there any? Director Crumwitty.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Orfatelli and Mrs. Dowd, and also Candace Reed, for your leadership at Garfield School. And I think one of the members here mentioned about their leadership, one of the students. I would like to say you're all leaders, and we as a board are very proud of each and every one of you, and I'm just really excited to see how the arts are being used at Garfield School. I appreciate your presentation. You did just a wonderful job. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? All right. I got to tell you, I don't usually wax very poetic up here, but what you all you affected me a lot. All of you with your music, all of you with the things that you said. And it reminded me of a book that I've got at home. If any of you are interested in reading it, it's called Gödel, Escher, Bach. And it links it talks about the relationship between math and art and music. And yeah, it might be something, excuse me, it might be something you want to read maybe in high school. But anyway, I'm just so impressed with all of you. It really is fantastic. And I do think that learners and leaders are two of the things that I think about a lot. I think about how important it is as students to really want to learn, and later on in life to really help and lead, and all of the leadership activities and opportunities that you're having. I'm amazed. I wish I were one of you right now. So thank you all very much. Okay. And while we're moving the drums out, Superintendent Tate, next up is a presentation.
You guys did a great job. Great job. Great job. Great job, guys. Good job, ladies. Thank you. Good job. Good job. You have well done, dudes. I need all my certified teachers to come out. Sorry, good. Thanks. So what do we do? Good job. Yeah. We're going to each come up and introduce you. Okay, okay. That's just short. I have to get out there. Don't want to put any pressure on you. What you're certified in where you teach. How about you teach? Yeah, where you teach. That's true. You guys are open to questions. Because I already talked to them. I emailed you the PowerPoint. I hope it'll be okay.
Do you want me to go ahead and wait? That's working fine, so you should just, all you should need to do is click ahead. Or do you want me to do it?
This side?
On this side, yeah. Just click ahead as you're ready to advance. Do you want me to give them the folders now or wait till
Yeah, you could give them the folders now. Sure.
We'll wait for another minute while we let those who want to leave and get ready for our next presentation.
You gave one, oh, that's Bill, Mr. Sherman. Okay.
good day. We only lost 2 kids.
Mr. President and Board of Directors, I'll call upon Rebecca Menard, the President of the Davenport Education Association, for the next presentation. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Tate and school board members, for allowing us to discuss the National Board Certification process. I'm Rebecca Menard, and I was nationally board certified in ESL in 2009. I currently teach at Williams Intermediate. We have 9 certified teachers here in Davenport, and they'll each have an opportunity to introduce themselves. First, we'd like to tell you a little bit about National Board Certification. What is it? It's a voluntary assessment program that the purpose is to develop, retain, and recognize accomplished teachers. Originally started over 25 years ago in 1987. The mission of the National Board is to increase student achievement. And they do that by setting up a rigorous professional certification process, which is comparable to those found in medicine and law. As part of this process, each of us had to submit 4 portfolio entries. Each is about 30 pages in length. We also had to go to the assessment center and take 6 assessments in our content areas. The portfolios, there's 4 of them. One is focused on student work samples, and you review and reflect on the use of student data. 2 entries are video recordings in our classroom. Most of us had to do a small group recording and a large group recording, but it kind of depended on your content area. And again, you write a 30-page reflection after viewing that video and your instruction. And then one entry is all about your accomplishments outside the classroom and how that you have to connect that to the impact it makes to student learning. Everything in this process goes back to student learning. To become a nationally board certified teacher, a candidate must show a strong command of the content area knowledge. You must design appropriate learning experiences that will advance student learning. Show that you use assessments to inform instructional decision making and collaboration with colleagues, parents, and the community. We put one of these in the little packet we gave you. It's a little hard to show, but what the purpose of this is to show it connects with what we're already doing here in Davenport. Danielson Framework for Teaching, that's all about how we post objectives and standards in our room, and we have that for the format of our learning. Connecting it to the Common Core, and then formative assessment. Each of these pieces we're already doing, and of course data teams. So it connects well with what some of our initiatives we already have in the district. Now, it's set on these 5 core propositions. Teachers are committed to students and their learning. Teachers know the subjects they teach and how to reach and teach those subjects to students. Teachers are responsible for managing and monitoring student learning, and they think systematically about their practice, and they learn from their experience. Teachers are members of communities. We collaborate with colleagues, parents, and the community. Now, some of the challenges we faced in becoming nationally board certified, one is cost. It costs $2,500. That's what we all paid. They're kind of changing those fees they're redoing the process currently, but when we were certified, that was the cost. Time commitment is over 400 hours spent in just 1 year submission. It's up to a 3-year process, and each year you're going to spend at least 400 hours. Pass rate. There's about a 50% pass rate in year 1. Again, it can be a 3-year process. You have up to 3 years to pass. Some teachers, we have many teachers in our district that's attempted to pass and never has successfully achieved national board certification. Supports. Currently, the state of Iowa, once you obtain national board certification, has a grant that they give you for $2,500 each year for 10 years. ISCA Academy that's Iowa State Education Association. They offer support classes to support the teachers going through this process. St. Ambrose has a whole master's degree program. It's a master's of leadership, and the master's program is formatted on this process. When graduating with your master's, you have completed all of these components to submit for national board. Multiple colleges also support this by giving you credit. Once you have gone through this process, you can get graduate credit for achieving national board. In your packets, we also have included some of the districts in Iowa, what they do to support people that are going through national board certification or those that have achieved it. Nationwide, there's over 100,000 nationally board certified teachers. In Iowa, there's 683 national board certified teachers, and here in Davenport, we have 9. In your packets, we've also included research that shows how, multiple research criteria that have showed how this increases student achievement, how national board certified teachers really make a difference in the classroom. At this time, I'm going to let each of our nationally board certified teachers introduce themselves, tell you what they are certified in and where they currently teach. And we also will introduce a candidate that is going through the process right now, and then we'll be open for your questions and comments. And thank you again for the honor of presenting.
I'm Amelia Reno, and I was certified in 2010 in early adolescence English and language arts, and I teach 6th grade language arts and reading at Williams.
Good evening. My name is Terry Toppler. I'm the teacher librarian at Walcott School. I was certified in 2005 in library media, ECYA, which is early childhood through young adult. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stacy Jancy, and this is my 20th year teaching in Davenport. And I teach 5th grade at Eisenhower School, and I received my certification in 2005 as a middle childhood generalist.
Hi, my name's Anne-Marie Tessier. I'm the ESL teacher at Buchanan Elementary and Harrison. I was certified in 2007 in English as a new language.
I'm Shannon Buckley. I teach math at North High School. I was certified in 2009 in mathematics, adolescent, and young adult.
Hi, my name is Julie Heller. I'm currently the SAM at Truman Elementary, and I was certified in 2009 in exceptional education.
Hi, my name is Carrie Johnson. I am a teacher at Central High School, and I was certified just recently in November, found out that I passed, and I teach in exceptional education.
My name is Joel Frank, and I teach at Jackson Elementary. I received my certification in 1996, the first year that it was done in Iowa, and it was in early adolescence, young adult visual art. I get a chance to say a little bit more here because I'm the old-timer in the group, and I was one of the first 7 national certified teachers in Iowa in 1996. I was also fortunate enough to serve on the national board from 1999 to 2003. And during that time period, we were able to accomplish going from 14 certified areas to 23, which we presently have now. We also started out in the early years doing 8 different portfolio entries, and that has been more efficient over time, down to 4 now. But the biggest accomplishment that I had as a national board member was meeting my wife, Diane, who was also a national certified teacher, and she was on the assessment committee. So we ended up marrying, and so that was my biggest accomplishment.
And I'm Sarah McGlynn. I teach 1st grade at Monroe Elementary, and I am the candidate that is currently going through the process. So if you have any questions, let me know.
And at this time, we'd be welcome for your questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Well, this is strange. Are you sure? 'Cause this, it's not every day we get a group up here like this. Thank you, Director Crumity.
Well, first of all, I just want to congratulate all of you for taking the time and spending the effort and the dollars to get the national certification. I'm hoping that more of our teachers in Davenport would seek out this opportunity, and as a board, we're just really proud of you. And so, congratulations and thank you for taking that huge step, because it is a lot of extra work and on beyond what you do every day in our schools and in our classrooms. So, thank you.
Director Cool.
Yeah, I guess we could thank you and thank you and thank you, but I'm wondering, I guess I always wonder what it is that causes an individual to go above and beyond what their requirements are. I mean, at one time I believe the Davenport Board offered more funding towards people who had graduated, had gotten the certification. They don't now. I just... and I know several of you, I've seen you in action, and I can see the difference. And I attended, there was a session at St. Ambrose a year or two ago where they talked about the certification process. And it seems to me there was some discussion about actual data that showed the results of your efforts in terms of showing an achievement difference between teachers who had been nationally certified and those who had not, and it seems to me that it was fairly significant. I hope that this board at some time will renew that discussion about incentivizing in some way, some small way, the efforts that you make, because I think it truly makes a difference for our students, and I appreciate the efforts that you've taken. But again, you didn't do it for us, you did it for yourselves. Thank you.
Director DeFau.
Well, I'm glad to see that this expertise is spread throughout the district and not concentrated in one or two buildings, because I think it's beneficial to our students and the district as a whole. And as I reflect upon your skill sets and the new teacher compensation that's being proposed at the state level, I'm selfishly asking myself, how do we keep you in the classroom? Because I know it's important for you to mentor others, but I've had firsthand experience with one teacher in particular here and know the benefit my children experience from being in that classroom. So again, it's selfish, but I want to make sure that our students have that ongoing direct contact and continue to benefit. And I guess my question would be, reflecting from the other side, what did this process, what did you gain most through the process? What did you take away that you're applying now, and what would you say to encourage others? To anybody?
Reflection is one of the big cornerstones of this whole process, and really reflecting daily, weekly, and by the unit, using communication, collaboration, and reflection. For me, those were big cornerstones of this process that I still use daily.
I guess I would just second the same thing. I'm currently in the process, so it's been awesome for me to not only be able to collaborate with people who are already going through the experience or already have done that, and bounce my ideas off of them and brainstorm with them. Davenport currently doesn't offer any, the ISEA Academy here, because we didn't have enough teachers in the district who are willing to do that. So I drive to Cedar Rapids once a month, and I'm able to meet with them and collaborate with them. It would be awesome to have had that opportunity to do that here with other teachers in our district, as I see that's such a powerful thing for them, all of the people in their Cedar Rapids district. But it has been really neat to be able to intentionally stop and pause and look at what you're doing every day and how can I make this better? What better opportunities can I provide for my kids, my students? And then, yeah, your leadership opportunities that grow from there. So, thanks.
I guess I would say the reflection piece is probably the most important. It was for me. But I would like to issue a challenge to every principal in the Davenport district to get the standards booklet every year and read it and then pass it on to their teachers and have their teachers read what the standards are for national certification. And a lot of teachers can see themselves in the standards already. A lot of teachers are fearful of taking the big step and doing it. But if they would only read the standards, they would understand that a lot of the things that are required in the national certification they're already doing. And if they're not doing some of those things, they need to reflect and start doing them. But like I said, I would challenge every principal to get the standards book and see what the national certification is in the 23 different areas.
Any more?
Well, I just wanted to reiterate, as people have been coming up and saying that the most powerful component of this process is reflection, I just want to elaborate that and say it's reflection based in evidence of practice. When you reflect, you have to look at what did I do and what demonstrates that what I did worked, which is something kind of new and unique to this process. And it's a humbling experience for the classroom teacher, but it's so powerful. You cannot go through this process without becoming a better teacher.
Is there anything else by the board? Okay. Well, I want to say thank you. I'm just absolutely impressed. And it was interesting when you mentioned there the word humbling, and I was thinking that I felt pretty humbled just being in all of your presence. I tried to do a few statistics while I was listening, and it just looks like we have our fair share of certified teachers. And I just want to again compliment and thank you and just really appreciate everything that you've done. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to communications. Director Snyder, you feel like reading our communications this evening?
Sure. Do we need to wait for Maria?
Oh.
No, go ahead and start.
Communications. February 17th, the annual Get on the Bus trip to Des Moines. On February 24th at 7 o'clock p.m., regular board meeting at the ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. March 3rd, 5:30 p.m., Committee of the Whole meeting, ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. On March 10th, 7 p.m., regular meeting, ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. And on March 24th at 7 p.m., another regular board meeting, ASC Jim Hester Boardroom.
Thank you very much. We always have an open forum for members of the community to give input at board meetings. We have no open board meeting or open forum meeting requests this evening, but we always want to encourage people to participate in that. Move on to other items. May I have a motion regarding the consent agenda?
Mr. President,
Director Crumwitty.
I move the consent agenda as presented by the administration.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I'm going to call for the vote, and before I do, I want to note that Director Dickman is with us now by phone, right? Director Dickman? Okay, thank you. Call for the vote. Director Crumwitty?
Yes.
Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director DeFau?
Yes.
Director Snyder?
Yes.
Director Dickman?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. I have a motion regarding approval of bills.
Mr. President,
Director Kluhl.
I move that the board approve the following resolution as recommended by the administration for the adoption of bills. The resolution is as follows. Resolved that all claims presented to the board having been duly certified as correct by the secretary, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby audited and allowed as just claims and warrants drawn on the treasury for the several amounts. Further resolved, the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented for the periods of January 23rd, 2014 through February 5th, 2014, with the following voided check. That check being number 314400, payable to McGraw-Hill in the amount of $4,249.09. That was the wrong amount.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call for the vote. Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director DeFau?
Yes.
Director Crumwitty?
Yes.
Director Snyder?
Yes.
Director Dickman?
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Move on to superintendent report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last Saturday, the fourth and final Greater Achievement Plan Saturday Academy was held. It was a snowy day. It was the Putnam Museum, and I really didn't know what to expect when I got there, but we had 65 of our students. There were 170 family members, parents, siblings. There we had 8 principals and 9 of our family liaisons and assorted other people, including a school board member and a superintendent. We had 200 people there. It was just a really, really great day, and they did a scavenger hunt with the families through the museum and then went to see one of the movies. So, excellent day. I have a letter from Project Lead the Way to Smart Intermediate School signed by Sam Cox, who's the Vice President of Operations. Congratulations, FL Smart Intermediate School has achieved national recognition for the Project Lead the Way Gateway to Technology program. Achieving this important milestone demonstrates the quality implementation of your program as well as your dedication to preparing students for the global economy. And I have an indication here from our Army ROTC at Central High School that this Thursday they're going to be taking 45 of their JROTC cadets to Veterans Hospital in Iowa City. They deliver Valentine cards to the vets and talk with them. And then lastly, I have a report that Dwayne Stahl, Central High School, was named the MAC Coach of the Year in boys swimming. So great for him, the school, and for us. And with that, I'll turn to our students, and we'll start with Kimberly Center.
How you doing today? At the Kimberly Center, there are 2 ways we honor our students. The first one is Student of the Week. To qualify for that, you have to have perfect attendance, and all students with perfect attendance are eligible. And 5 names get drawn where their names will be announced to the school. And today, our principal, Ms. Sherry Womack, she announced our Student of the Month. That's the second honor, and it's bigger than that. This is based on teacher recommendation, attendance, grades, and behavior for all students taken into consideration. The whole staff votes, and one student is selected. The student that gets picked gets to pick a friend and go out to eat with Ms. Womack, our principal.
This week we'll be starting Pennies for Patients. It's where you raise money for the students for children who have leukemia. Students are allowed to bring in spare change or any amount of money you want. We are off. I'm sorry, it's late. We're hosting our blood drive. Students 16 and older can sign up for that with student services. Anybody under 18 is required to sign a permission slip and bring it back. And I'm not for sure if I'm supposed to share this, but I'm going to anyways. No, I think I'll let her tell you. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. You guys know our principal, Sherry Womack. She has decided to stay at the school with Annie Whitmire because she specializes in PD and special ed. So she's going to stay instead of passing on with the next class. Sad. She's great. I like her. And that's all. For sure this time.
All right, well, this Saturday we had our show choir competition. We went to Mount Pleasant along with Central, and we got 5th place, and Jared DeFau got Best Male Soloist. Central, since they're not here, they got 3rd place and Best Choreography and Band. And they also had Best Female Soloist. And since, well, I'll finish with North. We have our Bachelor Captures winter dance?
Yes.
On Saturday, so that's really exciting. And since West isn't here, they went to a show choir competition in Troy and placed second, so it's awesome.
Yeah, so that show choir was great. And tomorrow we are hosting our blood drive, so that'll be a fun day, as well as we have our phone call. We have our BC Odd tomorrow, which will be very exciting. I'm an escort for that, so I get to walk across with the candidates, and that'll be really exciting. We have this Thursday we have a band and orchestra concert.
No, we don't.
No, there's a band and orchestra. It's a symphony concert this Thursday.
Oh.
There's a symphony concert this Thursday. There is one. And there's also something. Oh yes, in student council right now, we're kind of getting that rolling. That's what the blood drive is through, student council. We're also implementing new committees. We're trying to kind of put together a casual dance so that students who maybe don't want to go full out for the dresses, we can just kind of have a occasion to just get together and have fun like that at the school. We also have a committee started to just kind of promote the arts, and just not just arts, but also the events that are less attended, and trying to get students to really want to go to those sort of things. Also, in Joy Club, that's for Junior Optimist Octagon International, we are currently doing a Jason's Box project where we are collecting like toothbrushes and soap and those sort of things to send to our military personnel through Jason's Box organization. We just finished a book drive, which we will be giving to a refugee community in Rock Island that I have connections to through my church, and I think that's pretty much it. We have a lot of stuff going on.
We also had a basketball game doubleheader on Friday against Assumption, and the girls lost by just a little bit, and the boys, they played really hard and really tough, and probably the best they've played all season, and they lost by maybe, I think it was like 6 or 7 points. And it was because they had a lot of fouls, and so we got to play free throws, and they missed a lot of them. So that's where we need work on, I guess. But it was a great game.
I have something else. Okay. This was just something that was really exciting that happened today, and I thought I'd share. I work in the guidance office during my open third block, and that means I get a lot of tours to students who are coming. And we had a student today come in from JFK, and this girl was just so excited about the prospect of coming to North next year. She was so excited about being able to do show choir and band and the stuff that JFK didn't have. And like, I've given tours to a bunch of students, and this girl was just so excited, and I got to take her to the band room to talk to Mr. Collins, our band director, and she just shone in the school, and I'm sad that I won't get to be at school with her next year, but she'll be a great addition to the North High School family.
Thank you, students, for your very energetic report. And Mr. President, that concludes all of our reports.
That was a great report. Thank you very much. We'll move on to other items requiring action. May I have a motion regarding CenturyLink contract?
Mr. President,
Director DeFau.
I move that the board accept the administration's recommendation and approve the basic local telephone service contract with CenturyLink to provide basic local telephone service and T1 lines for a monthly fee of $9,044.43.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call for the vote. Director DeFau?
Yes.
Director Crumwitty?
Yes.
Director Dickman?
Yes.
Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director Snyder?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding resolution concerning 2015-16 funding for public schools?
Mr. President,
Director Kluhl.
on behalf of the Legislative Advocacy Committee, I would move that the board approve the following resolution, and I will read that resolution in full. This is the resolution of the Davenport Community School District Board of Education concerning 2015 through 2016 funding for PK through 12 public schools. Whereas the goal of all Iowans is to provide the quality of education for our children that encourages them to become lifelong learners and enables them to achieve their utmost dreams. Whereas existing law signed by Governor Branstad and unanimously passed by the Iowa House and Senate in 1995 provides that the legislature should take action on the funding growth rate for schools 18 months in advance, specifically within 30 days of the governor's budget delivery, and that was on 14 January of 2014. Whereas on-time funding is important because school district budgets must be approved and certified by April 15th, collective bargaining agreements must be negotiated, and staffing and program decisions need to be made. Unless the legislature acts promptly, districts must assume the worst, which can include staff and program reductions. Whereas Iowa spends $1,514 less per student than the national average, ranking us 37th, down 6 ranks from the previous year's 31st ranking. Whereas we appreciate the $150 million directed towards the teacher leadership compensation system, however, it does not allow districts to address basic programs, utilities, transportation, negotiated pay increases, and mandates such as implementation of the Iowa Core. Whereas our unspent balance in Davenport is at a critical level, and in order to ensure accountability, the board has set a goal of making $3.1 million in budget reductions over a 3-year period. We cannot close any more school buildings, so that impact will largely impact staff and classroom instruction. And finally, whereas the ongoing reallocation of school funding to pay essential functions is not sustainable, teacher pay cannot keep pace. Quality professional development for teachers, curriculum, advanced high school opportunities, and technology will all continue to fall behind. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Davenport Community School District Board of Education affirms the criticality of school funding beginning in FY 2015. We hereby entreat the state to support the level of public educational infrastructure support to achieve our common goal of student success as follows. A, beginning in the 2015-2016 school year, fund Iowa school districts at a realized 6% supplemental state aid to ensure that districts like Davenport with declining enrollment see at least a 6% increase in budget. B, initiate a strategic multi-year plan to achieve per pupil funding at least at the national average, which would take the equivalent of a realized 16% allowable growth in FY 2014 dollars.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director Kluhl?
I would just say on behalf of the Legislative Advocacy Committee that this is a resolution that we feel is probably most important to the continued success of Iowa school districts, including our own. And what we're doing, hopefully if the board approves this, is to join hands with the Iowa Association of School Boards, school districts across the state of Iowa, the Urban Education Network, and other agencies that are concerned with the outcome of student education. We feel that this is the one issue of the many that we could talk about that is most important to the vitality of our district's ability to educate our students.
Can I say something?
Director Dickman?
I wanted to express my support for this resolution and to ask any community members that are attending at the meeting to throw their support behind this. Our staff is wonderful, and I think that if we were able to get this resolution passed and get a 6% increase or more, it would be even better to be able to provide the best education for our students and fair compensation for our wonderful staff.
Thank you. Director Crumwoody?
Yes, I'm wondering, Director Kluhl, could you explain if the board does adopt this, what the process is? Where does this go to from here?
We, as I think Director Snyder read the upcoming events today, we're going to be going to Des Moines on President's Day with 2 busloads full of students. It's an important event. We've done this for the past 6 or 7 years, and we will be, in announcing that trip to our local legislators tomorrow, should the board pass this resolution, we'll be including this resolution along with that invitation to join us in Des Moines when we have those students there addressing legislators, and also the governor, who has promised to spend a half hour with us on that day as well. I would like to ask one of our student school board members to actually present this resolution to the governor in person, but we will also, like I said, be providing this to each of our local legislators and also chairs of education committees in both the House and the Senate.
Thank you.
Anything else? Director DeFau.
Surprised there was no reference to the equity issue and the inequitable funding per pupil that some districts such as ours experience.
You know, Director DeFau is talking about the fact that some districts in Iowa are not favored fairly, equitably, under the state funding formula. We had last year done a resolution on equity, and it is a very important issue, and we're continuing to work with that. Iowa Association of School Boards, thanks to Director Crumwoody and his delivery of our proposal to them, have taken this on as something more important than they did the year before. UEN is still working on various aspects of it. The Legislative Advocacy Committee determined that there are other people working on that issue at this time, but this 6% allowable growth, this adequacy of funding in terms of state aid is probably most vital to us this year. And we might have done 2 resolutions, but we felt that we had more impact with 1 resolution. But without doubt, a very important issue.
Any other discussion? We'll call for the vote. Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Crumwoody.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director Dickman.
Yes.
Director DeFau.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to discussion items. Start out with budget discussion. Superintendent Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're continuing our budget discussions and deliberations to try to find a target reduction of $2 million for the next school year from our general fund. We've been working with a list that I provided you last time at a meeting, and we talked about the mix of having reductions to the structure of the district mixed with the taking some money from the balance of our health fund reserve. At that time, the discussion was for me to also bring some other things for consideration, and I have done that on the bottom of the list. I'll read these out just for people who may be watching. Eliminate stipends for teachers in charge position when a school also has a school administrative manager. Custodial management group recommendations, reduce board spending account by 25%. Reduce superintendent spending account by 25%, reduce administrators' annual professional development allotment by $500, recoup part of the Edison contract. There's a $700,000 total savings. I'm recommending $350 of that. 5% reduction in department budgets, and that would total to $782,000. And then I added some additional items for consideration and not in priority order. I reduced the substitute budget by 10%, increased class size in elementary, intermediate, and high schools, share principals at Bluegrass and Buffalo schools, change 1 associate principal position in each high school to a teacher dean, and administrative furloughs. I would like to begin because the question was asked last time about these custodian management group recommendations. Last year, several custodians had mentioned that they wanted to meet together to come up with some recommendations to the board that we could look at for the current year's reductions. And we have had a committee meeting, and custodians, and Ty's been involved in that, and Jabari, and Scott, and some of his administration, and they've come up with some great recommendations. I gave you copies. And Ty, I'm just wondering if you want to come forward. In fact, you can just sit at the table here, whoever you want to come up and talk about some of the recommendations to the board, because I think it's great would I appreciate the fact that we have management and labor working together for the good of the school district.
Very well. Do you have a copy of those that I may see? Why don't you guys come up here too, if you would? I'd like to have the custodians that work with me come up if they might. Can you hear me okay? There we go. Okay, thank you. Ty Cutcomp, Representative ASME Council 61. I have with me also the custodial members who are part of the cost-saving committee. Dr. Tate is correct that at the start of the school year, the district said, hey, custodial group, would you like to partner with us to talk about finding some cost savings within the district, things that would be within the purview of the custodial bargaining unit employees that we represent, and we took that on big time. We really appreciate the opportunity to do so, and we think it's a very proactive way to deal with things. Last year we talked about the interest-based problem-solving methodology, and we used a lot of those techniques when we did what we did this year with the committee. We met several times separately and then began meeting with the district thereafter. It was really interesting and surprising to see how similar our interests were. The committee that we had discussed many ideas, and then finally we characterized the ideas as ideas that we had consensus on and ideas that we did not have consensus on. We then had an opportunity to meet with Dr. Tate, as he's indicated, and develop a list of ideas to share with the board. And that's the list of ideas that Dr. Tate was talking about. And so if I might, and I'll... She's been so far away. Oh, no problem. I'll share this with Scott if I might as well. Okay, the first idea that we came up with was to allow voluntary compensatory time to be offered in lieu of overtime pay. Now, the linchpin on this is that the accrued compensatory time would be taken on non-student attendance days. So effectively, the custodian that was taking the time wouldn't be replaced by another custodian coming in, because during the non-student attendance days, the custodians are not replaced. On that item, we developed a cost savings estimate of $40,000. And would you like me to go through all of these one after the other and then answer any questions that you might have? Okay. So the second item that we talked about was to look at doing a review of the use of district facilities. We came up with some areas suggested for review, like to review the definition of the groups that are required to pay or not pay for the use of facilities, to talk about the whether or not the building usage charge would vary based upon the time of the day that the building was used. For example, a building used at night may actually cost, because of lights, may cost more than a building used during the day. We talked about, the concept that we were seeing ad hoc sort of groups walk in at times and use the building without pre-scheduling, and the custodians of the district are the ones that actually see these things go on. They're kind of the frontline folks that walk in and witness these situations. And the suggestion was that the district could review the use of the district facilities to see if some savings could be achieved there. No cost savings estimates were put together because this was kind of an idea in its infancy. It wasn't a final product idea, but it was one that was brought forward. The third thing that we talked about was to perhaps actively advertise the rental of the district facilities. The district has a lot of space here, and that in times when the school is not going on, there might be some ability to rent that out to different groups. You've got fields, you've got stadiums, you've got pools, you've got tennis courts, the softball complexes, gyms, auditoriums, lunchrooms, meeting rooms. Any entity in the area that actually has a need for a large meeting of employees might be interested in taking advantage of that. And we also talked about maybe doing some marketing of that with the Chamber of Commerce and with, and by notifying large employers of the availability of that, and maybe even to partner with the Food and Nutrition Service Department and have them even do catering perhaps in conjunction with those events that might be held in the school facilities. Again, no cost savings forecast was put on that because it was kind of an idea in its infancy, but nonetheless it was an idea that the committee did talk about and thought may have some value. The fourth item we talked about was the issue of energy savings. Again, our custodians are the people that are on the front lines. They see lights being left on. They see, electronic devices being left on. They've brought to us and said, hey, we need to figure out a way to deal with that phenomenon. And so when we met with Dr. Tate, he came up with a great idea that to put together an energy committee and to actually have the some of the people, the custodians that are in our unit, attend those meetings and be part of the committee, because again, they're the people where the rubber hits the road and actually see these things going on. And so we talked about that. The savings estimate from that item was between $50,000 and $100,000. The fifth thing we talked about was the issue of recycling. Now this is connected with the energy savings proposal that we talked about, due to the fact that it would also be monitored by the same sort of energy committee. And in this situation, the group talked about how the cost per dump was $30 if it was regular trash, but it was significantly less if it was recyclable. And in that, we thought that we could encourage a recycling to come up with a savings of $10,000. That's the forecast that the group came up with. The sixth item, and there's just one more, by the way, the sixth item was on insurance. There's two things on insurance that we talked about. One was to allow an opt-out on insurance, and those employees then who opted out of insurance would get a lesser amount given back to them, lesser than the amount that the district would actually be putting in the insurance fund if in fact the employees were taking the insurance. And the second idea was to allow employees to switch from family insurance coverage to single insurance coverage anytime that the employee wanted it. The theory being that that would benefit both the employee, who wouldn't have to pay for family coverage, and it would benefit the district because the district wouldn't be having to put the family coverage monies into the insurance fund every month. They could just put the single coverage monies into the insurance fund. No forecasted savings was raised on that because we weren't certain the number of employees who might avail themselves of that. And the final thing we talked about was to allow custodial department employees to voluntarily take a leave day on the day before Thanksgiving. And that would be a voluntary leave day. The employees, in some of the collective bargaining agreements, it talks about how you have to actually be in attendance the day before and the day after a holiday in order to get the holiday. So that would have to be waived for this situation, because you can't get double dinged by taking the day off and then also not qualifying for holiday pay. But that would have to be, that would have to be dealt with in sort of a side letter of agreement. The savings forecast estimate from that was $20,000. So that is the sum total of the ideas that the committee thought worthwhile to bring forward, and I'll answer any questions if you should have any.
Are there any questions by the board? Director DeFau.
Not a question, but a comment. And I'd just really like to commend the custodial staff and leaders for, taking the initiative to, think creatively about ways that we can contain costs and maintain the level of services in our buildings. And I really appreciate that. I mean, you've stepped to the plate numerous times in the past, and it is noticed and appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you.
Director Cromedy.
I just want to reiterate, I think this is a first, at least for me, being on the board, that we've seen labor and management come together and present to the board some ideas for cost savings in this district, and I just think that's phenomenal. So I want to thank all of you. I know this is probably extra time and effort on your part, and we as a board really appreciate it. So thank you.
Anybody else? Director Dickman.
I think this might be for
Marcia is not here tonight.
Oh, well, I'll ask the question anyway and see if anyone has the answer. I was under the impression that revenues would not necessarily help us because it's the unspent balance, and that advertising for the rental of buildings would be the revenues from that then help us with our unspent balance issues, or how would that work?
The revenues would actually go to our bottom line in our general fund, so they would, in fact, help us in that way.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else? Director Kluhl.
Well, I don't know how many ways you can say thank you. We've certainly said thank you for working together, but the word that comes to mind again is the same thing that happened with the Garfield or the North High School group, is inclusivity. This may not be interest-based bargaining, but I think it's a step forward working towards our common interest, and I'm really glad that you all took the initiative to make this happen. Just one concern, number two. I appreciate the words and the thought that's gone into this. The only caution that I would have is that I want to continue to make our buildings the kinds of places where people do want to come to, and we start putting exclusions in and talking about eliminating ad hoc usage. Just want to be real careful how we would approach that.
If I can say, some of that is just managing. Some of that is just managing the process. One of the concerns that the guys on the boots on the ground brought to us was that a lot of times people will just show up. They don't have a rental form. They don't know that they're even coming, and so it puts them in a difficult bind because they're trying to protect the building at the same time take care of the facility, and so that's more where we're going with that discussion.
Mm-hmm. Well, having tighter boundaries would make life better for everybody, not the least of which would be the janitors, custodians.
Anything else? I want to say thank you to all of you. Some of you I don't know. I think it is pretty cool seeing you all up here. I wanted to thank Dave, especially, for all of your advocacy over the past year. You were at so many of our meetings, and your advocacy, I think, was notable. Sally, back in the back, in all seriousness, all of your words and comments are really important. And Ty, thank you for continuing to suggest some of these ideas that we work together. Thank you again, all of you. Superintendent Tate.
Thank you. So continuing with the list that we have, I'm just interested in general discussion, most specifically concerning how much of the health fund reserve that you're interested in using, and the additional reductions that I provided to you. Some of those, as you can imagine, are very sensitive. The increase of class size, sharing of principals, changing an associate principal to a dean, administrative furloughs, and if any of those you don't intend to even take this year, I'd say the sooner you can get them off the list, the better for everybody, because everyone's extremely nervous. But again, they're potentials, and I leave it to you. I'll take notes as you discuss. And Marcia's sick tonight. That's why she's not here. So anything she can't answer, I'll get an answer and get back to you.
All right, thank you. Let's open this discussion on the superintendent's recommendations or opportunities. Anybody? Director DeFau.
And looking at the additional reduction opportunities, I question whether the last 4 items could be implemented for the next school year. Those seem to me some pretty big conversations that we need to have. We've always taken seriously our charge to maintain small class size. That's not something that I want to race into without some serious thought and consideration. Not saying that I would be completely opposed, but again, this is February. I think it's too soon, too close to April to be having that conversation. In terms of the reduction of the sub-budget by 10%, is that a cost that would be absorbed by the buildings as opposed, or is that a complete elimination?
Well, the way I've seen it work before is you take the entire sub-budget, over $1 million, and you take 10% off. You keep some at the district level to take care of long-term subs whenever someone is gone for a long period of time, and the rest you give to the buildings per student. And then their job is to manage that budget. So then they have to decide how many subs they need each day, what they might do instead of putting a sub in a classroom. So it's pretty dramatic, but it really puts the onus on the building to decide how they want to do their substitutions.
And, in thinking about the educational best interest of students and, when their teacher is absent and not having a qualified substitute in that room gives me real pause. So I'm just not certain that I would be there. I would be interested in knowing if we exhaust our substitute budget on an annual basis, and if we do, how much we overspend it. Because if we're in that position, then I don't know how, because then that cut is much more than $129,000. So that's information that I would need before I would even give any consideration to it whatsoever.
Director Crumwitty.
I'm not only concerned about the last four bullets, I'm concerned about the first bullet also and what Director DeFaw was talking about with the substitute budget. Jabari just left, and I know Deb Miller is not here, but I did ask this question of her last year when we were talking about substitutes. And it appears to me that we still have this same issue in the district, that we do have a shortage of substitutes. And that would be a huge concern of mine if we're cutting the budget by 10%, which means we would have fewer subs yet, and we would have more substitute issues. I, too, think I'd want more information on the other four items. And like Director DeFaw indicated, it's February. The other thing I want to talk about for future reductions is block scheduling. We need to have that conversation along with administrative furloughs and sharing principles and the 5 that you listed. I'm feeling comfortable, Dr. Tate, with the target reductions that you have. I do have a question about the teacher in charge positions. As I went through the information, it appears that we would be eliminating 9 teachers in charge. You had listed out that there are 9 schools that have both SAMs and teachers in charge. So it's my understanding from where you're going with this is that all schools, elementary, would have SAMs, but we wouldn't have any teachers in charge. Is that correct, or am I?
There are some schools that do not have SAMs right now, and they
Right.
would still have teachers in charge.
Oh, they would have a
Yeah,
teacher
so
in charge.
this is only for, and I've listed the schools that have both a SAM and teacher in charge: Adams, Buchanan, Fillmore, Hayes, Jackson, Monroe, Truman, Washington, Wilson. That's where we would take the stipend away from the teacher in charge because they're doing essentially the same duties.
Okay. So that those 9 teachers in charge that we have, those 9 buildings, and if the stipend is basically $4,300, my question is, how do you come up with $64,000? That's where I need some clarification.
You don't, and I was going to ask Marcia how she got there.
Okay.
I got 45.
Okay.
So that could vary, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Otherwise, I'm feeling comfortable with the target reductions.
Anybody else? Director Snyder.
I just have a question and kind of on clarifying as far as changing one associate principal position in each high school to a teacher dean. I'm just curious what, I guess, how that would look and what the implications of that would be, how that would get to $130,000 and what that would mean for the schools.
A teacher dean's pay would essentially be a teacher's pay plus a stipend, probably $4,500 in that range. So when you take the difference in what the 3 associate principals are being paid and that pay, it's $130,000. There are 3 major things, 4 major things associates do: discipline, evaluation, night events, and assisting the principal with whatever else he or she needs. The teacher deans really are restricted to the discipline and assisting the principal whatever he or she needs. They aren't able to evaluate, and they wouldn't go to night events. So what we'd be losing, the major things would be losing, changing from an associate to a teacher dean, would be the fact that we couldn't use them for night duties, which is it's a lot, as you can imagine, for the principal associates, and they wouldn't be able to do the evaluation. But Mr. Scott, anything else to add to that when we were just evaluating, the pros and cons of that?
Actually, I think those are the two key points that I would have said.
And the only other thing I have is on the class size. Before I came onto the board, I heard the phrase thrown around a lot of looking for cuts, as far away from the kids as possible. As much as I don't really think that's possible, no matter where we cut, the kids are going to be affected somehow. But by raising that classroom size is a direct can have direct implications on every child out there. So that is something that I would need a lot more convincing on before I could support that. I would have to go through and exhaust out a lot of other options before I could add any more kids to any classes.
And I can't convince you. This plan calls for adding one student to all the classrooms in high school, middle school, and elementary. Teachers will tell you it makes a difference. So it's not something that I would suggest that we jump on to do, but it is a possibility.
Any other discussion?
Question?
Director Dickman?
I see one of the points is share principals at Bluegrass and Buffalo. How feasible is that? Is that something that would become a very difficult job, or is that something that's been done before? Share a principal between buildings?
I've seen it done before. I've heard that we've done it here in Davenport. It would mean the principal would either divide his or her time a half a day at each school, or one day at one school, one day at another. It's not the most desirable setup, especially under the system that we're using now, where principals are instructional leaders and their job is to be in the classroom, their job is to assist and coach teachers. It would certainly complicate that and degrade that particular effort.
Thank you.
Anything else? Director Clough?
Thank you. It concerns me sometimes how we accommodate to our current situation, and when our current situation is a starvation budget, we start to say things like, I'm comfortable with this. I would hate for a legislator out there to hear us say that we're comfortable with these target reductions, because I think, like Director Snyder said, you can look at any of these things here and try to convince yourself that they don't affect the classroom, but they all do. They all do. Some more directly than others, but they all do. That resolution that the board passed tonight is true. We're in dire circumstances. And I am very concerned about all of these cuts above the line and those additional reduction opportunities that you listed below. My first question is the $2 million that's targeted. That seems to have decreased from what we had talked about shortly ago. We were talking about in the order of $3 million per year.
We did perhaps last year when we were looking forward, but now we've recomputed, and it looks like $2 million for this year. So we've been pretty consistent when we started talking budget as $2 million for this year. That hasn't changed, and it's based on us getting 4% next year and a little bit of increased enrollment.
Mm-hmm. I was looking at the board budget, and one of the most costly items on there is our publications in the newspaper. I'm wondering, I know we have a state code requirement to publish in a local newspaper, but I don't know if that requires print publication or if there's a more economical way for us to do what we're required to do by state code other than what we're doing now.
I don't know. It's a great question. We can certainly ask that.
Yeah, one of us can address that right now, if it's okay.
Please.
During your question. Director DeFau, you want to take a shot at it?
Well, I actually was going to ask Mary if she could speak to it, because she did do some research on that about a year ago for us in terms of what's required by Iowa code.
Should I?
Yeah, come on up.
Why don't you come to the mic?
What's required by Iowa code is the action items and the vote. That is the only thing that's required in Iowa code as far as minutes. That's my understanding. Is that what you remember, Ralph?
Yeah, why don't you wait for us up there at the microphone for a minute?
And that was a discussion item, and I brought the research
or
and so
let,
on.
let me interject, if I might, Director Kluhl. Do you remember what the savings, the projected savings would be on a per year basis if we were to reduce our paper representations from what they currently are to something like that?
I would hate to. It would be in the thousands of dollars. I can tell you that the purchase order, the standard purchase order for this is in the range of $10,000 per year for board publications. And we pretty much spend that every year. And for a board meeting that's long, it can run between $200 and $500 to print that entire board meeting in the paper. Because last year the board directed me that they didn't want to condense that at all. They wanted everything to be in the paper. So if you just had the action items, that would reduce that significantly. Because when we print a special call meeting where it's just very brief, it only costs under $100. So.
Director Kluhl, is that sufficient?
What about financials? We also have to report financial information in the paper, correct?
That I don't think could change. The bill listings, the printing of the bill listings in the paper, that also comes out of the board budget. And that's extensive, but that's only quarterly, I think, but I'm not positive about that. But I can definitely say that the bulk of that expense is from board minutes.
Really?
Yes. Oh, yes. Most definitely.
Yeah. In that case, that's something that I hope the board will consider. If there's a way to save funding there, I mean, that's fairly far away from the classroom.
Mary.
Excuse me, Mary. But I want to make sure
that
Director
answers
Kluhl
my
is done.
questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Director Cromedy?
At our last board meeting, we approved a committee to go more paperless with our board meetings. Do you see that as a savings item in with our general board expenditures? And the reason I'm thinking this is all the paper, all the printing, all the delivery costs of bringing those packets to us every Friday afternoon. Wouldn't we have some dollars saved from that versus using technology?
I would have to do some research on how the change from paper packet to digital would affect the board budget, but I know it would definitely affect the overall budget. I mean, every time I put in the code in the copier, that gets charged. That's
Okay.
the board account. So that would be reduced significantly. And then I know that at one time, I don't know if you recall, Dr. Tate, that Marcia, she got an estimate on how much it cost to deliver the board packets, or just the student packets. I think it was I don't know, a couple $1,000s just for the student packets. So I can find out more about that. But there's no question it would be reduced.
Okay.
Quite a bit.
Thanks.
Director Clue.
Mayor, I wonder if you could find that information that you provided before about the potential cost savings from reducing the amount of information that went into the paper,
What period of time would you like that for?
most recent.
Most recent year?
Something that would just give us an idea of what we might be able to save.
Oh, okay. Okay. Be happy to do that.
Any other questions for Mary? Okay, thank you, Mary. Is there any additional discussion on the issue of budget, Director Crumwoody?
I just want to clarify something I said earlier in response to Director Kluhl. I said I was feeling comfortable with these budget reductions. I'm feeling comfortable with the ones that are being recommended by the administration. Not that I'm feeling comfortable with any of these budget cuts, because I certainly don't, and I think it is going to impact us, and it's going to impact our students. So I'm not feeling comfortable with the ones that are listed as possibilities, because I don't have the adequate information right now to make any decisions on those things.
Anything else? I've got a few things. If I did my calculations right, it looks like on the the board budget, our expenditures to the QC Times publications is 40% of our budget. Well, if all we have to do is cut 25%, it looks to me like that's an easy solution if the board accepts reducing the amount of words that we put into the Times. When we had the discussion last year or the year before, whenever it was, there was a significant concern about people who needed to read all of these words in the newspaper. But I think in the context of what we're going through with budget, it would be really easy for me to support that. And my recollection is it was about a $12,000 savings. We'll see what Mary comes up with. But that in itself would attain our $9,000 goal. So I support that 100%. With respect to the other items, I still believe that we're going to have to make difficult decisions in the future. And I believe that the additional reduction opportunities not in priority order should be seriously considered for at least the following year. And I believe all of them. We have held low class sizes as a sacred cow in this district for forever. And at a minimum, I would want to see the research, because the research that I've been led to believe is out there may not necessarily support that. And the others, I think, warrant additional research and discussion.
Am I hearing that the additional reduction opportunities should not be considered for this coming year, but perhaps the year after? Because I'm very interested in knowing, do I keep pursuing those now? Do I answer people's questions about what it means to them? Or are we saying those are something that we may have to take year after next?
Superintendent Tate, I'll try and characterize what I heard the board saying is that some were I don't believe that anybody suggested that they wanted to investigate these this year, was what I heard. And and I'm a little bit concerned about the future year. I'm not so concerned from a personal level, but from a board level. Director Kluhl in particular, when we've pursued things in the past, and then you look backward on that and you say, well, we shouldn't even have brought it up. And I think about that relative to these additional opportunities. And I was just wondering if you could reflect on that for a minute relative to the superintendent's question.
Well, President Johansson is talking about our discussion in previous years about custodial contracts, the nurses' contracts, where the board or the superintendent had a committee and talked, the RAC committee, and the RAC committee came up with potential areas where we might save. And I think that had the board taken the time and said, Dr. Tate, let's take a look at this before we go out with this and see whether we can support this or not. I think we did not indicate to the superintendent that that wasn't something that we didn't all support from the beginning. And I think that was a failure on the board's part, because I don't think the board ever did from the beginning support outsourcing. And so that was unfortunate. So my hope with these things here is that the board would indicate to Dr. Tate if these are things that they just absolutely are not going to go forward with. And I think that's where you're coming from. Say it now rather than before we go out to the public with the issues.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Before we go to that portion, I want to make sure from the board's perspective, did I misrepresent anybody or the board's position relative to these additional items as the superintendent thinks about them? Have we all said, or is there a consensus anyway, that these are not recommended for consideration by the board for this coming year? Is that correct? Director DeFau.
That would be my opinion.
Okay. Director Crumwitty.
I would agree. That's absolutely what I feel, and I also think that not waiting until next year to have some of this information brought forward to us. I think we get into this budget process and somehow other things get in the way, and if we start talking about these things now, for example, reducing the substitute budget by 10%, how is that going to impact our schools? Do we have a shortage? What is the budget right now? Those kinds of things. I think we can get that information before next year, but I don't want to deal with those 5 issues this year.
And Director Kluhl, that's
And not being the politician that Director Crumwitty is, my answer is yes.
great. Thank you. So that clarifies for this year, right? And then with respect to the additional reduction opportunities in the future year, and thinking about what Director Kluhl was talking about, are there any of these, for instance, that the board just wants to take off the table? Or are they additional opportunities that, as Director Crumwitty was just speaking on, that we should pursue and get additional information on? I'd like a little bit more discussion to clarify that for the superintendent. Anybody?
I have a question.
Director DeFau.
In regard to the associate principal position, is that 3 or 4 buildings?
Only 3 the largest high schools have associates. There's an assistant at Kimberly Center, so I didn't include the assistant at Kimberly Center because the savings would be smaller, but I could if you wanted me to do that.
So we'd be asking 3 staff members to take a reduction of $43,000 a year in income.
Yes, they either probably take a different job with that sort of a reduction if they stayed here with us. Yes.
I don't know that I feel compelled to place that large of a burden on such a small number of employees, especially, employees who have, for the most part, risen from among the teaching ranks and have established themselves as building leaders. So I don't know that I would ever support that unless there was some caveat that that would be grandfathered in as people left those positions. Then that might be the only way that I would consider that as viable. As a parent, in regard to the increased class size, I've always said if we were ever in the position to cut extracurriculars and other enrichment opportunities for our students, as a parent, I would say add a student to my child's classroom. So as I said, it's not something that I'm unwilling to look at in general, but for this year, we're way too late in the game to have that conversation. And again, I've already made the statement about the substitute budget, and I think we need just a lot more detail in terms of where we're at now. Is it overspent? Is it underspent? You know, what alternatives do we have? And that's a direct instructional hit. And I don't know that I can, again, I don't know that that's in the educational best interest of our students.
Additional discussion on this issue of how the board wants to look at these additional opportunities for the future, and especially if there's anything that we just can't consider. Nothing? Director Crumwitty.
Well, I think we have to look at everything. I'm not ready to say, no, we should take these things off the table, and that's why I said what I said earlier. I think we need more information. I'm very concerned about the third bullet, sharing principles. You know, we're expecting our principals to do much more than what they've done in the past, than I had to do as a principal. They are the instructional leaders. I don't know the population right offhand of those two buildings. I think they're probably large enough to have their own principal full-time to be the instructional leader in that building. But I need that information from the administration to help me make a better decision.
Okay, anything else? And Superintendent Tate, what I've heard is that the board would consider all 5 of those opportunities, but simply needs more information sooner rather than later for consideration for the following year.
That's what I've heard, including block scheduling.
Including block scheduling, and I suspect by next year we're going to probably look for a little bit more. Depending on how you look at it, this is only over $1 million. Are we going to go to the to our health fund reserve well again? And we probably will be considering that. But at least for what you've considered, you understand where the board is.
I do, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Move on to the next item of discussion, school start date. Superintendent Tate.
I'd like Rob Scott to lead this discussion. We provided an information sheet for you. It's a little bit different than we had talked about last time because we had a few more people join the discussion with some different ideas of the pros and cons. And I'm going to bring this back to you for decision in 2 weeks. So this is a merely discussion tonight and see if there's more information we need to get for you. Mr. Scott?
On the start date, we had talked about the 18th at our last meeting. The message I took back, or the group took back from the board, was trying to make sure that we were done prior to Christmas. And the high school principals were open to before or after Christmas when we talked about the 18th. We also took the feedback of what are other districts doing, and I'd say 4 of the 5 closest districts are, or 3 of the 4 closest districts are all starting that week of the 11th through the 15th at some point to be consistent. So we're talking about moving to the 14th on that Thursday. I know about 5 to 6 years ago that was kind of our schedule. We started on a Thursday, had 2 shortened days. We had teachers come in on that Monday. The advantage of starting on the 14th, we talked about several things as far as busing. One of the advantages having all of that happen on that Thursday and Friday and allowing the busing to clean up over the weekend for all of our students. We also talked about averaging out the semesters a little bit closer. The 2 extra days does throw a few more days into the first semester, but it also doesn't force our teachers to come back that first week of August. We can start on the 11th with teachers, and it also allows for building, maintenance, things like that for that entire week in the first week of August to get our projects done. So we are looking at the start of the 14th now, and I guess I can't say that they definitely would be 2-hour early outs because that's something that we talk about through negotiations.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Director Snyder.
Well, starting then, what would that look like then for, as far as breaks, and getting, we had talked last time briefly about having a couple fallback days, I guess, for inclement weather, to where it would still allow the kids to get their testing completed to end the semester before the break.
Sure, and that would be our plan. I think the days would be 42 and 43 days for each quarter. First quarter, second quarter. Third and fourth would be more about 46 and 47 a day, so a couple extra days in the second semester. I had a little note here saying we've had very few snow days prior to Christmas, and because I say that now, we'll have 5 next year. But we really have, most of our snow days have been after, in my time here, have been after the holiday break. It's like anything, if we had those days prior to Christmas, if we had 4 to 5 days, then we would just go back. I think we would come back to you and say we need to make an adjustment and make that, I guess, internally make that adjustment and have the finals afterwards, if it happened that we had one of those years.
And he did last year.
And we actually, that's one of the things about timing right up to the very end, whether it's spring break, it's one of the disadvantages. If we hit a snow day right at the very end, there's just no way for us to make any quick fix for that to get kids done. So yes, we've had that happen a couple times, I think, in the last 5 years.
So by starting on that Thursday, and we have that safety net, if we don't need those days, then what would that mean for the school schedule? If we don't need those days extra, added in for snow days, would they just get out earlier for break then?
No, we would our normal break day, we would start with whatever December, I can't think of, I think it's December 21st would be, we would stick with that day if we didn't have a snow day in the first semester, and that would still give us 42 and 43 days, and that would be, we'd stay with that.
Okay.
Any additional discussion? Director Clue?
I thought it was interesting when we heard that the principals actually would be okay if kids came back to test after winter break if they had a week.
Yeah, that was actually some dialogue that we did take from teachers also, from high school teachers when we talked to them. I know the student voice, though, is very strong for they're liking to finish before, and I thought there were some good points brought up also as far as moving on from whether they're going to go to work and they can start their job right away or the college opportunities for them. Those are 2 key things I thought they shared the school board.
So the biggest reasons for moving back, because we were talking about the 18th?
Yeah, the 18th. And we that was a flexibility day that the high school principals just felt that we could go either way depending on the direction.
Mm-hmm. So the biggest benefits from this are aligning with the other districts and giving ourselves some play, some free days in case of snow days.
The couple days is an advantage. I do think the busing, when talking to the group, the busing, they was a nice advantage. They don't have to have that, but having those 2 days and then being able to clean it up over the weekend, that doesn't mean a reason to do it. It's just for that one concern. And then the teachers, we just didn't want to get into that first week of August, and we've been in there with teacher in-servicing, so that means band camp is even a week early. That means it's in the last week of July, and it's just everything kind of backs up from that first day of the teachers.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional discussion? I just looked up the fair dates, and, well, this is pretty serious.
It is serious. Sure.
It goes through the 17th. And the reason I mention it, I've already been getting not flack, but concern about the start date. And during the discussion of this, I'm not sure where I would be, but I think that the start date of the 18th, which is what you had said earlier, might be the latest date, might tend to be a more balanced date relative to these other concerns. I'm not really that concerned about the fair board. I am concerned about our community members and parents and students that are in 4-H or that do attend the fair for various reasons, and I know that they will be advocating their position. So it's just something to think about. I'm not sure where I am, but I wanted to raise the issue.
Well, I
Director Clue?
concur with that point. I'm concerned about it. We talked about it last time, though, and we figured probably those 4-H kids were from West, and the indication was is that they would be allowed time off. It's 3 days, which could be a lot of time.
Oh, I just wanted to interject that some of them are younger than high school age. Okay. Well, I think, are you done, Director Clue?
Well, one is never done, but I'm finished with this particular conversation at this
All
particular
right.
time.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that discussion. We'll move on to administrative reports.
None from me.
Thank you. Are there any board reports or requests? Director Snyder.
I attended Saturday. I stopped by the Putnam Museum where Jillian and her team had the third gap weekend for the kids, and the turnout was fantastic. I was concerned when I pulled into the parking lot as snow was falling. The streets were slick, but there was still a fantastic turnout, and it was nice to see the school buses pulling out a lot too. People took advantage of the transportation. The kids were having a good time. Whenever you have the kids grabbing the moms and dads and grandparents and dragging them around saying, look at this, it was very well done. And as far as their scavenger hunt, it was basically a list of questions that the kids would find the answers to in the different stations in the museum, the different exhibits. That they had questions to answer. It was all very well done. The kids were learning. They were having fun with learning. Then they got to see a movie. It was just very well done. The staff at the Putnam was outstanding with the kids. They should be very proud of everything they put together. That team is outstanding.
Any other board reports or requests? I've got a couple. I wanted to make sure that the board and others are aware. We participate on a city conference board and a county conference board. Those two boards happened to have meetings today. They have meetings about twice a year. We participate as a part of the vote in the city conference board. We're one of 3 school districts, and the school districts have 1 vote. In the county conference board, we're one of 7 school districts, and the schools get 1 vote. There is significance to all this, and we have a city schools examiner, Richard Wallstrand, that the board selected a couple of years ago to put on the city conference board as the examiner. The county has asked the schools to put together an examiner for the schools for the county conference board as well. And the conference board examiners, on behalf of the schools, they represent the schools really in helping to select a new assessor. And so that's happening right now at the city level, and sometime in the future it will be at the county level. I really just wanted to advise the board that this is going on, but also to offer the opportunity, if anybody wants to participate in this, it is an interesting learning opportunity, and it doesn't take a lot of time during the year. That's all I have. Are there any other board requests or reports? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.